What's going on, YouTube? So midsize sedans were once a segment of boring and basic transportation, but Hyundai kicked off a style revolution back in 2011. And now they're amping it up again with this all-new 2020 Sonata. In addition to being stylish, it comes with tons of new tech features for the Hyundai brand, all of which we'll be able to show you today with this fully loaded limited model. Now, of course, we do want to take a second to thank our good friends at Gates Hyundai in Richmond, Kentucky for giving us such quick access to it. And if you're in the market for any new Hyundai, we encourage you to stop by their dealership or visit them via their website, which we provided a link to in the video description. So with that all said, let's see if this new Sonata has toppled the segment leaders. So kicking things off with the all-new exterior, Hyundai has certainly been putting out some bold designs recently, and this is no exception. The grille takes up nearly the entire front end of the vehicle, and is always finished in this metallic black mesh, which either makes for a cool stealthy look when the outside is black like this model, or a bold contrast look when a lighter color is chosen. It is worth noting though that the base SE has a slightly more conservative face. But as far as things that stand out, the grille has nothing on these headlights. The main part of the cluster is fully LED on every single trim and has a relatively normal shape. But you'll notice that the daytime running light actually extends up the hood of the car. When the vehicle is off, this area will just appear as a continuation of the normal chrome trim. But when the car is on, Hyundai's patented system allows it to light up. This is a cool trick that also looks very nice in person. Now, as far as the rest of the styling, it too is very bold and style oriented. Honestly, the rear design looks like nothing else on the road, let alone a midsize sedan, with a trunk that's bent to make a spoiler and LED taillights that cross the entire back. And then to finish off the design, there is a single exhaust outlet with two tips on all but the SE. So overall, I have to say that I am a fan of what Hyundai has done here. This is an incredibly stylish offering that stands out from all the other competition in all the right ways. Now, checking out the wheels here, there are several different designs for the different trim levels. This being the limited, of course, means we have the largest offering, 18-inch gray and black contrast alloys. The SEL Plus also has 18 inches with a darker design, the SEL with 17 inches, and then the SE with 16-inch alloys. Heading on up to the mirrors, all but the base model has heating, and surprisingly also blind spot monitoring. And while we're on the topic of safety systems, it's worth mentioning that Hyundai has expanded their entire SmartSense safety suite to the entire Sonata lineup. That means that even the base model will come with forward emergency braking, lane keeping assist with lane centering, auto high beam headlights, and adaptive cruise with stop and go abilities. This definitely now gives the Sonata one of the more comprehensive suites in the class. Well, anyways guys, that's all there is to discuss with this stylish exterior. So now let's go ahead and see if the interior is just as exciting. Now on the 2020 Sonata, every trim except for the very base model will come standard with their smart entry system. However, that's not what's really cool about this car. What is cool about the 2020 Sonata is that you have a new system called Digital Key. Now, a few other brands have things similar to this, but it basically allows you to get in and out of the car without even having the key on you. So you can keep this key card, as well as through your phone you can install an application and it will work via the NFC near field communication system, or like I said, you can use this card. Now to get in with this card, As you can see, since this model just came in, it's got some instructions on it. You can read it right there, but you're just gonna kind of tap it right there. You can see that the car unlocked right when I did that. Let me stick that in my pocket there. You can now just reach in and open it up. Alright, so checking out this cabin in the all-new 2020 Sonata. As you can see, it really has a completely different design language than the outgoing model, as well as most of the other Hyundai models in the lineup. Now, talking about the interior material and color options, of course, each trim does have a different selection here. So on your SE and your SEL, those are going to come standard with cloth seating in black or gray. Going for your SEL Plus, that's going to come with a leatherette trim seat with suede inserts in the middle as black only, since that's kind of the sport trim option. And then when you go for this limited, as well as optional on the SEL, that's where you'll get the real leather seating, and you have black, gray, or camel colors. Now turning over here to your door trim, of course it is very nicely finished. You have leather trim that goes all through here, as well as above it through here, and the top part is soft touch as well. On the limited trim, you have two-person memory seating, and then your driver and passenger windows are one-touch automatic. Heading down here to your seat, it is 8-way power adjusting with 2-way lumbar on all but the very base model, which is manual adjusting. And then, like I was saying, this is real leather. Definitely looks and feels very premium, and I like the unique design. So as you can see, this new Sonata certainly has a very upscale looking cabin, and as far as the materials, they are also very upscale. Now across your very upper part of the dash here, this is a hard touch plastic. However, the vast majority of everything else is covered in this very nice leatherette material with a stitching detail. Dropping down below that, we have a soft touch plastic that goes through here. And then our lower areas here, they are hard touch, but everything feels extremely well put together. As you can see, fit and finish is fantastic. Now on the SEL and up, press the button to start. Now I should mention that things started up here because I do have both the regular key and this digital key card. But if you had just this key card here, what you would do is come on into the vehicle and set it right there on that NFC pad, which is also your wireless phone charger. But anyways, now returning back up here to our gauges, there are several different arrangements. You've got a traditional version with a 3.5-inch display on the base one, a 4.5-inch display on the SEL. But then once you get up here to the limited or optional on the SEL, you have this really, really nice 12.3-inch digital, fully reconfigurable display. So of course you do have different settings. So what you do is use this button to toggle between the center and the side, and each one has its own settings. So as you can see right now, we're on this side, so we can scroll through all this information. Then we can press the button, and this will jump us in here to the middle section, and then we have another set of information that we can change and whatnot over here. And then to be entirely honest, guys, this is probably the best resolution I've seen on any vehicle outside of Audi's virtual cockpit. Like, it is that high quality. Now in addition to that, the limited will also throw in a head-up display. It's a little hard to see right now just from the angle of it, but it is also reconfigurable. You can change it with this information out here, so you can change things like the font color and the size and whatnot. Now coming back to the steering wheel, of course you have electric power assisted steering, and it is nicely leather wrapped on the SEL Plus and the limited model. It is also heated on this limited only or optional on the SEL convenience package. But as you can see, this is the newest Hyundai design. Definitely very nice looking. Like I said, you've got these buttons for your digital display there. It is manually tilt and telescoping across all the models. Oh, and one thing I did forget to mention is the blind spot camera system. That's standard on the Limited only, and how that works is you basically just press your turn signal, and then you can see it activates a camera located on that side to actually show you your blind spot, and it does work the opposite direction as well. Alright, now moving on to interior storage, the 2020 Sonata certainly has plenty of it. So we'll start out in our center console here. As you can see, this is pretty generously sized for this class, and we do have a felt lining down at the bottom. Over here we have our 2 cup holders, and then up here in the front we have a really large bin here. You know, you can stick just about anything up here. Like I've already mentioned, this is both an NFC and a wireless phone charging pad, standard on the Limited or optional on both the SEL Plus and the regular one. And then we also have a 12-volt outlet, charging USB, regular USB as well. Now back behind that, we have one of our biggest changes here with this all-new Sonata, and that's how we go to the digital shifter that we saw in the Palisade. It's very simple to use. Of course, it's just push button, so you're just going to press the D for drive. When you choose to get the SEL Plus or the Limited, you will also find paddle shifters up here on the steering wheel. And then you click the R to go into reverse. Now when we go into reverse, on this Limited only, we will find a 360-degree camera system. Of course, you do have active trajectory, front and rear parking sensors, and then you can change the views right here by pressing these buttons. Different settings, of course, as well. All the rest of the models just come with a regular backup camera. And then also here on the Limited model, when you're in reverse, both of the mirrors will tilt down to help you see the parking lines better. And then your electronic parking brake, that's standard on all models and it's located right over here. Now behind the shifter, you will find a few more buttons. This is for your auto brake hold. We also have our drive mode controller. So as you can see, you have 4 different drive modes. Each one changes the design, so that's certainly very cool. Now what I really want to talk about though is this system right here. This is a parking assistant. This is a class exclusive. I really actually never heard of this outside of anything non-luxury at all. But what this does, as you can see, you would press that button. That would activate the forward or backwards parking assistant. What you'll do then is get out of the vehicle, and you can then use these buttons here to guide the vehicle back into its parking spot or out of its parking spot, you know, without you even in the car. So that's certainly a very cool feature. It allows you to park in and out of really tight spots that you maybe can't comfortably get in and out of. And like I said, that is class exclusive, and I believe the first mainstream car I've ever seen with that feature. Now heading on up to our climate controls here. This is the dual zone automatic setup. It comes standard on all but the very base model. Of course, it is very simple to use. You just use these big knobs here to adjust your temperature, and you do have toggles for all the other controls physically located right here. Now off to your sides here, this is where you find your seat controls. We do have 3-stage seat heating, standard on all but the very base model, but the 3-stage ventilation comes standard on the Limited only. Alright, so now that's going to bring us up here to our audio system. All of the trims leading up to the Limited come standard with a 6-speaker sound system, like most in the class. But once you get to the Limited, or you can option it on to the lower trims, that's where you'll get a 12-speaker Bose premium sound system. So let's go ahead and take a sample of that. Sound quality of this system is definitely excellent. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at our BlueLink system here. I'm not going to go into all of the details because it is pretty much the same as in other Hyundai models, but I will point out a few of the features that are really special and exclusive to this car. The first thing I noticed right off the bat is the resolution. This is definitely the highest quality display I've seen in any Hyundai Kia product. Definitely really nice quality and matches well with the high quality of this digital gauge cluster here. Now, as far as the displays, what you'll be looking at is a standard 8-inch display on all the models except for this Limited, and this has the 10.25-inch widescreen display, which can just put a little bit more information on. You can option this display onto both the SEL or the SEL Plus if you prefer to do that. Now, as far as navigation, this is the built-in navigation system. This is standard on just the Limited trim. However, of course, if you go for one of the lower trims, that's going to come still with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Now, from the home screen, you can swipe over here to see a list of all your applications. I did notice this interesting one here I've never seen on any other Hyundai product. It's called Sounds of Nature. And as you can see, when you press into that, it brings you to the sounds of nature. This is a lively forest. We can switch to different types of sounds. Rain, cafe. So that's a pretty interesting feature. I'm not really sure why they're trying to relax you while you're driving. Seems like something that might put you to sleep, so I wouldn't use that very late at night if you're going to use it. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much all I'm going to talk about here. We do, as always, have a dedicated tech help video about the BlueLink system if you want to learn more details about it. A link to that video is provided in the description. Now, moving up above that, we do have an auto-dimming mirror with your built-in HomeLink universal remotes on the SEL Plus and the Limited. And then we have one of the nicest features for a midsize sedan, and that's that we have a panoramic moonroof here on the Limited model. This is pretty rare for the class. There are only a couple other rivals that offer it. And you can also option this on to both the SEL and the SEL Plus trims as well. But anyways, guys, that is going to sum up everything I have to look at in the front of this premium cabin. So now I'll go ahead and hand it off to my brother Mason, who will check out all the back areas.
So turning and looking at the all-new Sonata's rear door trim, you are going to be very pleasantly surprised, especially here on the Limited, since you do have leather going all the way through here, all the way on your armrest, and that same integrated door handle design. Now down below that, we do have some door storage, a bottle holder, Now in the back, in terms of amenities, you are going to find a few features back here. However, it is a little bit less than a lot of its rivals. So these rear vents will be standard on the top-end Limited trim. And also looking down below that, you will find a smart charging USB port, which is also only standard on the Limited trim. I do also want to point out that heated rear seats are not available on the Sonata. Now turning over and looking at the armrest, it does fold down. You have cup holders inside. And up top, you do have your assist grip, coat hook, and panoramic moonroof. Now in terms of space, the Sonata does fall a little bit behind some of the rivals. It's technically rated at 35 inches of rear legroom and 38 inches of rear headroom, which does place it around 5 inches smaller than the Honda Accord and also smaller than the Toyota Camry. However, in terms of space behind Drew's seating position, I'm really not having any issues still. I still probably have 6 to 8 inches of rear leg room, and my feet can easily slide up underneath the seat, so I don't think that most people are going to have any issues back here in terms of space, even though it is a little bit less than its rivals. Now heading around to the trunk, To open it, all you have to do is look at this little top portion on the Hyundai emblem, push it, and it will open right up. And as you can see, it is dampened to open all the way up, almost like a power trunk. Now, in terms of the actual space back here, you are going to find 16 cubic feet of space, which, unlike the rear seat measurements, actually puts it at the top end of the class. That's better than the Camry, although just a tad bit below the Honda Accord. And Hyundai has finished it very nicely back here. So we do have a cargo net. The floorboard is carpeted nicely, and underneath we do have our spare tire. In addition to that, the seats do also fold 60-40 split. Now turning over to the seat itself, it is power adjusting on this limited trim. That is an exclusive feature for the Limited. And in front of the passenger, you have that unique design. And down below that, a good sized glove box that is dampened. And up top, we do have a sun visor with a mirror and a separated light. It does also detach and extend as well. But anyway, guys, that sums up all the practical stuff about this all-new Sonata. So now let's go ahead and get it out on the road and see how it performs against its competition there.
So first taking off here in this 2020 Sonata, this is the 1.6 liter turbo. Now with this car, what's interesting about it, just right off the bat here, is you've got two different engine options. Neither of them are, say, more powerful than the other. They're more or less equal in line. So what you'll be looking at is a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter 4-cylinder on the basic model, and that's going to come with 191 horsepower. Then when you go to the SEL Plus or this limited model, that's going to get you that 1.6 liter turbo 4-cylinder. That actually comes with less horsepower, 180 even, but more torque. It's going to be 195 pound-feet of torque versus the standard model's 181. Yeah. So, like I said, really in the real world, those numbers are close enough that you're pretty much going to feel the same. So it's kind of a little bit of an interesting arrangement to have it set up like that. Now, there will very likely be an inline version that comes later on as a performance offering there to replace the previous 2-liter turbo. But as far as how the power felt, definitely feels very good. What we had noticed kind of getting up to the testing grounds or whatever is that it definitely feels very torquey. It has a real spunky feel to it here with this turbo engine. So you definitely launch off hard and it feels like something, you know, more powerful than the average thing in the class. You know, and another thing that I do want to touch on, we can speak for this turbo because this is the 1.6 liter turbo, but I do find that it's very quiet and refined, pretty similar to Honda's 1.5 liter turbo in terms of refinement, and I really like that. Now obviously we haven't driven the regular one, but I assume this will be quieter and a lot more refined than that model. Yeah, you hear very little of the engine at all, even under heavy throttle applications. Of course, we're on a back road here, and this gives us a chance to kind of, you know, test out how much the handling has improved. And I can definitely say, big step up. Really like the way that it handles. I don't know if the camera can pick up on it, but it stays really flat as you corner, and it has a very agile feel to it.
And I do want to take a moment to discuss the ride quality of this all-new Sonata. Now, we had actually never been in the previous generation, so we can't comment on how the ride quality compares to that. But what I can comment about is how it compares to most of its rivals, like the Accord and Camry. To me, it seems pretty much average with that type of vehicle. It's very quiet in here. Everyone's going to be very happy. You're going to have tons of space, and really, you're not paying really any price for the sporty driving dynamics that really Hyundai has made with this new model.
What I'll go ahead and do is bump into the sport mode, because it changes the gauges, like I pointed out, which are really cool animations. These are very, very nice gauges.
I love the gauges.
See if it makes any difference here with the steering. It does tighten this up here. Definitely a lot more boosted. So you turn a little bit less, you get more response, and it's just overall heavier feeling. And as far as the throttle response, just like almost every sport mode, definitely dials that up, so that right as soon as you get on the throttle, you get an immediate response. You have to say it's probably the most surprising thing about this, really, is that it's really kind of sporty, and this is just the limited trim. This is not one that pretends to really have sport ideas. It is designed to be luxurious, but yet put it in a sport mode, and the really
that dual
tight
character,
steering, and the agile chassis really pulls it off. Actually, very happy with it. As far as the transmission, we have an 8-speed automatic transmission. That's going to be standard across every single Sonata, and it is front-wheel drive only. They don't have an option for all-wheel drive at this time. As you know, a couple of the rivals have started to do that. Toyota will be coming out with the all-wheel drive Camry about January, I believe, and also the Altima, of course, has all-wheel drive. To say I'm really enjoying how spunky this feels.
Now, you might be curious to see if that spunky engine costs you fuel economy wise, and the answer to that is actually going to be no. So if you go for the SEL Plus trim or the Limited, you're going to get that turbo engine. That's going to come in at 27 city, 36 highway, 31 combined, which is right in line with the best offerings in the class. And if you go for the more basic trims and get that naturally aspirated engine, that's actually not going to cost you fuel economy either over the turbo. So that's going to be 28 city, 38 highway, 32 combined for the SEL or SE, and then for the SEL it's going to drop 1 mpg to 31 combined. So pretty much same fuel economy for both the turbo and naturally aspirated engines, and it is at the top of its class.
So all in all, I have to say, highly impressed by this all-new Sonata. It has a lot of class exclusive features, a lot of technology inside of this car. When I was going through the review, I was like, I really like this, this is great. I was really wanting to see, the driving. Can it, keep up with, because the Camry and Accord, frankly, they drive very nicely at this point. But I can say the answer to that question is definitely yes. It has an excellent balance between both sport and luxury, even here on this limited model. And I'm really pleased with all of the upgrades that Hyundai has been doing recently to driving dynamics. So overall, if you're in the market for a midsize sedan, you would be doing yourself a huge disservice if you don't come out and check out the 2020 Sonata.
Alrighty, and now that we've seen the all-new Sonata, let's go ahead and talk about the pricing. Now, you will be happy to know that the prices rise less than $1,000 across all of the trim levels, which is really good for an all-new vehicle. and it still has a great value for the class. So starting out with the SE trim, that's going to come in at $23,400. Now if you want the SEL, that's $25,500. The SEL Plus is $27,450. And then you finally have this model, which is the Limited, and that comes in at $33,300. Now our Limited does have a few accessories, so we do have the carpeted floor mats for $135, the cargo net for $50, the cargo tray for $115, the rear bumper applique for $70, and the wheel locks for $55. And then finally, when you add the destination charge of $930, this particular model as equipped comes in at $34,655. And that is pretty much, I think that's really as high as it gets for this Sonata lineup, which is quite remarkable considering that a lot of its main rivals, the stuff that it competes with, like the Camry, can go over $40,000 fully loaded. So you are getting that extreme value here in the Sonata and a lot of really nice tech features in this model. Well guys, we hope you enjoyed watching one of the first in-depth looks at the all-new 2020 Hyundai Sonata Limited. We really appreciate you watching, and be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.